lovely people, it's Victoria. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. So I'm trying something a little different today. A little different, though I'm wearing the exact same thing I always wear. So we're gonna be doing a bake with me today because, quick story, I pretty much put myself on the hook to make a family friend her favorite cookies, which are gingerbread cookies, because I don't want to get too personal with it, but basically she had a really fucking shitty year. She went through a serious personal loss, and this is her first holiday season. She just came out of her first holiday season having gone through that extreme personal loss, and I got the idea to make her cookies, and I had my sister ask her what her favorite cookies are, and so now the woman is expecting cookies, and I need to follow through on what I said I was going to do, because I try to not emulate Michaela Noguera whenever I can. So we're going to be making gingerbread cookies, and I'm going to be embracing my inner Tyler Bender while trying to do this. So I've set out, you're probably not going to get a great view of me actually making the cookies because of where I've set the camera and everything, but I have everything laid out in front of me. My sister got these cookie cutters the other day, but I have all the supplies and ingredients and everything just kind of strewn about in front of me. And we're going to see how this goes with making cookies. So I just have the stove in front of me. We have these two bowls. One of them is all like shiny and metal and pretty, and the other one is plastic. No hate to plastic bowls. But they said I need 2 large bowls. So, and also the recipe I'm going to be using is from Sally's Baking Addiction, because fun fact, that is my personal favorite baking blog. That is my go-to location for recipes when it comes to baking just about anything. And while we are doing that, because I wanted to be talking about something while I'm making said gingerbread cookies, I got the idea a couple days ago to talk about the media that I consumed during 2025, especially things that I had not previously seen, because I saw a lot of movies for the first time in 2025, some that I really liked, some that I really, really did not like. And then also I tried to read more than I have in previous years. And then we're going to mention a few that I almost finished but didn't. And then also, so we're going to be talking about, movies, TV shows, and books. Hello, this is the next day from when you're seeing the first part of this video, but I forgot to film my call to action. So hi, I'm Victoria, I'm a singer-songwriter, and I make content about whatever I feel like talking about, whenever I feel like talking about it, which can go anywhere from commentary to story time to rants to sobriety shit and anything in between. So please consider subscribing. I'm trying to upload a lot more consistently. I have the goal of, I would love to finally hit 1,000 subscribers this year. That would be so fucking cool. I upload short form content pretty much every day, mainly mini covers, like acapella covers. And I sometimes do OOTD still when I feel like it, but I tend to wear the same things pretty often, so I tend to not do that as much anymore. And yeah, please consider checking out my music. Tiny Sailboat EP is anywhere you stream music or on my channel. Consider checking out my socials, consider checking out my website, my music website that also has blog posts on there. If you have not read those, I need to update my freaking blog, but I am focusing on uploading a lot of content right now, so it's kind of hard to do all of it, but yeah, thank you so much. And also consider hitting the notification bell to get notified when I post, because I'm posting a lot more frequently now. So back to yesterday me. But we're gonna get started with the recipe, and we're gonna see if I'm trying to multitask too much, and we're gonna see how this mic placement is working. This is all gonna be just a beautiful trial period. So in a large bowl, whisk together the flour, baking soda, salt, ginger. Okay, so we're gonna whisk together. God, I'm like malfunctioning. The dry ingredients, and then set it to the side. So, also I was debating I'm still kind of debating if I want to mention things that I rewatched that I had seen before, because I did go through a few pretty distinct phases when it came to movies, especially. Watching movies, like in the beginning of the year, I went through a total Disney kick, and then pretty soon after that, I went through a Barbie kick as I rustle flour over the sound of my voice. But I'm going to be like mainly focusing on things that I either watched for the first time this past year or that I like really had like only seen once and then happened to rewatch in 2025. But we are just going to briefly mention the movies that I've seen a bunch and just happened to watch again this year, and it's probably not going to be all of them. So yeah, the Disney kick included, but is not limited to, WALL-E, The Incredibles 1 and 2, Ratatouille, Princess and the Frog, Hercules, Tarzan, Mulan, Pocahontas, Tangled, Frozen, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, I'm pretty sure, Princess Diaries. I don't know if I actually watched Princess Diaries 2, but I love that movie, and so much more. Coco, Moana, most of Soul, yeah. Then the Barbie kick included the Barbie Diaries, 12 Dancing Princesses, Nutcracker, Princess and the Pauper, Island Princess, and I think that was it. And then around the Christmas season, there are certain movies that I love to watch every holiday season. So I mentioned in my what I got for Christmas video, the movies I watched, but I watched Oh What Fun for the first time, and I saw Last Christmas for the first time, or no, like the second time. I'd only seen it once though, but I rewatched it for the first time in a minute. Arthur Christmas, I've seen that a bunch. I watched that movie, love that movie. Candy Cane Lane, saw the first half of that, and I've seen that once before. But yeah, the movies that I love to watch like every year include The Holiday, Rise of the Guardians, and Klaus, and I watched all those this year. I love them so much. Also, I watched The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe for the first time in probably 15 years. That's such an incredible movie. Also watched Prince Caspian for the first time in like over 16 years. Well, honestly, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I probably haven't seen that in like 20 years. I believe I've only seen that movie once when it first came out when I was like 6. So watched both of those. Those are amazing. I am probably going to watch The Dawn Treader. I think that's the only other movie that they made. Bruh, it is really hard to like bake and make stuff while talking at the same time. It's already like too much for me sometimes to do like a get ready with me. I don't know how people do this. But I just washed my hands to double check that they are clean, and now I'm sifting the flour because we're going to be fancy and make sure our dry ingredients are sifted. But with all that being said, we're going to talk about more movies that I either watched for the first time in 2025 or rewatched for the first time in a very long time in 2025. And probably around September, October-ish, I got into a bit of a kick of watching like sci-fi movies, especially like classic sci-fi movies, mostly with my dad. Oh, I didn't put this on the list, but I am like pretty much positive that this happened this year. I saw The Matrix in full for the first time. I had seen like the first half of it back in 2017, but I never actually watched it in full. And I did watch it while I was pretty high, but I saw the first Matrix movie all the way through. That's also, classic sci-fi movie. Mainly talking about like alien movies, but incredible movie. Love The Matrix. I've heard kind of like back and forth things about the sequels. My parents say the sequels are both they're 2 sequels, right? They say they're both really good, so I will probably need to check out the sequels. Cannot believe I forgot to put that on the list. Other kind of sci-fi alien type movies that I watched. We're doing 3.5 cups of flour. I'm gonna need to open another thing of flour. It was already open, yay. Also, I'm not sure if we should make icing to go on the gingerbread cookies. I feel like that's kind of a must. Like, we should decorate the cookies. I feel like gingerbread cookies are like the main cookie you think of when you think of decorating cookies. I feel like that's fair to say. So I may have to we have a ton of powdered sugar, so I may have to end up making an icing and decorating the cookies. That I will definitely ask my sister if she wants to come down for. But yeah, alien movies. The first kind of alien movie on this kick that I watched with my dad was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I've been meaning to watch that for a long time. That is definitely a classic that I had just never seen. I found it really interesting, and I feel like it builds tension pretty well, but it is quite a slow burn. I feel like that's a pretty universally agreed upon thing, that they definitely know how to build tension in that movie. Yeah, I like that the aliens ended up being pretty peaceful. I thought it was interesting that the plot is like they're peaceful and they're not like violent, but they just tend to kidnap humans and sort of hold on to them for like decades at a time in some kind of time vortex in which they don't age, but we're supposed to not view them as bad guys. I guess because it's not like some other movies where we see where they like completely just kill everybody. Next movie I'm pretty sure that we watched on this kick was Battle Los Angeles. Damn, that's a fucking badass movie. I love that movie. I like to try to put away ingredients as I use them, so I'm probably going to be going in and out quite a bit, but I'll obviously, edit that down. This recipe somehow, for some reason, doesn't call for nutmeg, but I'm going to be putting nutmeg in anyway because I feel like that's a must. I know my mom will get all like, you need to follow the recipe when you're baking. And I pretty much am, okay? I just spilled a bunch of ground ginger, but that's fine. But yeah, the next movie was Battle Los Angeles. I really like that movie. I feel like a lot of this is going to be me giving generic, like, one-line reviews of, I like this, I don't like this. I thought they built tension really well. Should we make icing for the cookies?
I think so.
And decorate them? I feel like that's kind of a must. All right, cool. I'll definitely, if you want to, I'll definitely have you come down for that. But that'll be like likely when they're in the oven baking. Because we have a ton of powdered sugar, so that'll work. Spilled some ginger. It's going good. I don't understand how people do baking videos. Like they just can like talk and bake simultaneously. But I am talking about media that I consumed in 2025.
Nice.
And giving different reviews on it. Have you seen Battle Los Angeles? No. It's so good. You would like it. You like a good alien movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
We should watch it sometime. It's very fun. 1 tablespoon cinnamon. Yes?
Oh, it's stuck with me for now. That's fine, though. We're making gingerbread cookies for my dead friend's mom. She's going through it, and they're her favorite cookies. So, this will fix all of that. I don't know where she is right now, but... Fancy microphone.
I can probably do an ASMR channel.
It's quite bright in here. This is not making my skin look great. But, I'm working on a present for her. It's like a cute little locket with my friend in it, but we can't figure out the printer at our house, so it looks like I need to spend money to print it, but that's okay.
Have you been talking shit about me?
Not about you.
Just about everything else. Mama's showing me that dress. Did she show you? We have
No,
this.
but I heard her talking.
Yeah, we have this dress that like everyone forgot we owned. I don't know whose it was, and apparently it's worth like $350.
Nice.
That's cool. This recipe for some reason doesn't call for nutmeg, but I feel like I should put nutmeg in it.
Just do it.
All right, I'm gonna get back to talking about movies and shit. Allspice, half a teaspoon of allspice. But yeah, I like Noel Fisher from Shameless, who plays Mickey. He's one of my favorite characters, even though Shameless kind of low-key triggers me now, so I don't watch it that much anymore. The scene where they try to get Marines out first before civilians, and then the helicopter gets like busted down and everyone dies, I thought was an interesting artistic choice. Then after that, what did I... Battle Los Angeles. And then we watched Independence Day. Have you seen it?
Love Independence.
Independence Day is so good. I loved it. What are my favorite parts of Independence Day?
I haven't seen it in forever, though. I don't actually remember anything about it.
I like Jeff Goldblum in it. The ending with freaking Roy and how he, spoiler alert if you somehow have not seen Independence Day.
It's your own fault.
It is your own fault. The way he flies up into the ship and then like blows himself up and yells like, "Hey boys, I'm back," because he's been the one that's been claiming to have been abducted by aliens like 10 years earlier or something. It's so good. I love it. Oh, and the kid when he's like, "Dad, what are you doing?" How much nutmeg? Maybe half a teaspoon, because that's how much of everything else I'm putting in.
Yeah.
Or, we'll do a quarter teaspoon. We'll be tame. And then allspice. Allspice. Oh, that reminds me. I haven't seen Men in Black in a while. That's like a classic sci-fi movie that would be nice to see. that Will Smith is also in.
Butter.
After, oh yeah, I was softening that. If you could just put that somewhere, please. Jeez. In continuation of my dad and I watching, classic sci-fi movies and stuff like that, he goes, oh, they just made a remake of War of the Worlds on Amazon Prime. We should watch it. I was like, okay. At that point, I had not seen any iteration of War of the Worlds, including the 2005 version, which I later would go on to see and very much prefer. But I have not seen, I think there's a version from the 70s. I haven't read the book. I haven't any of that. Also have not seen World War Z with Brad Pitt, which apparently is pretty good. But we're going to whisk together our dry ingredients and set aside. But yeah, I was like, oh, there's a version with Ice Cube. And it's one of those movies where, like, you're watching it at the time and you think it's kind of decent, and then you realize slowly, and especially like once you've seen it, you just realize like how bad that movie was. Like, holy fuck, it was so bad. Like, nonsensical, and the writing is so like choppy and jagged. So I'm going to add my kind of wet ingredients, and that's going to involve using a hand mixer, so that's going to be kind of loud, so I'm probably just going to cut the camera and come back once I've done that. But yeah, this father who works at like the NSA or something, and he does surveillance, and he somehow has an ability, he basically just stalks his children, especially his daughter, who is pregnant with her boyfriend Mark's baby, who the dad like doesn't really like, but he works for Amazon. The word Amazon is used so many fucking times, including like this same line over and over again about like, you just want to see what's in people's Amazon carts. The government doesn't care what's in people's Amazon carts. And yeah, offers to cash to a homeless man for him to do something, and he refuses, but then they offer him Amazon gift cards, and then he does it. Like, it's so blatant and ridiculous. It's like the screen life thing. Honestly, Ice Cube's one-liners and stuff is pretty funny, but just like the editing is bad. There's this one particularly awkward scene where he finds out that his daughter is having a baby shower that he wasn't invited to, and then he like remotely finds out that she's like in the streets and she's bleeding out or something, and then he remotely unlocks a Tesla so she can get into it, and then he's like taking her to the hospital, and then he brings up like, I get why you wouldn't want me at the baby shower, and then she responds like, Dad, when are you gonna realize that you can't control everything? And then gets into this like thing about, you wanted to control everything after Mom died, and be like, okay, like, I get that you have a lot to say to him. This is just honestly, it wasn't the time for him to bring it up, but then also that was like not a natural response to him admitting wrongdoing and being like, I get why you wouldn't want me there, and she's just like, when will you stop trying to control everything? It was just out of left field. Not to be rude, but can you leave?
But I can leave and hate me, I guess.
I love you! I actually was like kind of shocked when it turns out that his kid was like like the Watcher or whatever. I like honestly kind of forget the conflict of it, of like the Ice Cube's boss knew about aliens but kept it secret from the public, but then it's this whole thing about the government has your data, and the whole thing is that the aliens want to eat people's data, as if that makes sense. Like, what would they have to gain from eating our data? Like, why would they even care? At least with, what was it, Battle Los Angeles, the plot is like their motive is water because they use water as fuel. Like, that makes sense. But what the hell would they have to gain from consuming everyone's data? Is data an energy source? They don't really explain that. Yeah, and then the little details of like the NASA lady being, her name's like Samantha or something, and her contact is Samantha NASA. I think it might actually be Samantha NASA lady. Okay, so I mixed everything together, and I didn't realize that like chilling is mandatory with gingerbread cookie dough. So we're probably not going to have the entire baking process in this video because they say you should chill it for at least 3 hours. But we are going to wrap it and flatten it into a disc. Continuing, let me just wipe this counter area first before I put the dough on it. I mean, It was pretty much clean earlier, but I've just gotten all my ingredients on it so far. So, continuing from the Alien movie thing, 2025 War of the Worlds was really not good. I'm actually surprised it took me a second to realize like how just poorly done it was in like every way. But then I saw the 2005 version of the War of the Worlds. That shit was good. I really liked that. I didn't realize that the dude that played Jimmy Steve in Shameless was in there too. I feel like there were a lot of surprise appearances from people that would later go on to act in Shameless. I think Noel Fisher, like, Battle Los Angeles came out the same year that Shameless came out, so I think Noel Fisher, like, did both of those in the same year. But obviously, whoever played Jimmy Steve did War of the Worlds first. I remember really liking it. And I think there was, like, an emotional significance to him ultimately calling him dad and stuff like that. At first I was kind of confused on whether or not he was their dad. Gingerbread dough does not smell the best in my opinion. It kind of smells like olives. But I'm getting it into a big ball and then I'm going to cut it in half. So again, this is going to be kind of nondescript. I should probably have like reviewed this stuff earlier about what exactly happened or like how I felt about it, because we're just gonna be like, I liked this, I didn't like this. I thought it was interesting that batteries still worked, considering I think all of the clocks stopped, even like the analog non-digital clocks. So I thought it was interesting that batteries were still working. I'm pretty sure like flashlights and everything were still working. Oh shit, I didn't mean to cut into the bowl. Okay, all right, so I'm gonna wrap this half of the dough and then flatten it into a disc. And as we're flattening it, we're moving on to, I would say, honestly, I might venture to say my worst reviewed movie of 2025. Like, War of the Worlds was really bad, but at least we actually finished it. This movie, my dad and I didn't end up finishing it, and we thought we were fucking crazy because it seemed like, unlike War of the Worlds, the 2025 version where everyone could agree that that was a terrible movie, this movie was not as widely covered or big, but it seemed like everyone that reviewed it really liked it, and my dad and I thought we were losing our minds. It's Star People. It's Star People. If you have seen Star People, you can tell me whether I'm crazy or not. You probably will think that I am. I kind of fucking hated this movie. So I'm kind of like assuming that y'all know the basic plot premises of the movies that I'm talking about, but I'll just give a little thing for this one, especially because it seemed like it was a little more indie-ish, like not as much of a main blockbuster, but it seemed like everyone that talked about it really liked it. And I was really confused because, so Star People is basically about this young woman who witnessed the Phoenix Lights phenomena in 1997 in Phoenix, Arizona, which, fun fact, I'm from right outside of Phoenix, so that's always been a pretty relevant event in my life, although it did happen like a little over 2 years before I was born. But she thinks that she like hears this supernatural voice in her head when she's witnessing it, but she goes on to become a photographer, and then she gets like commissioned by, I think, like a cartel boss or something. She ends up getting commissioned by some cartel boss to like photograph proof that these certain lights that people witnessed is not aliens or something. This character, I forget her name, she deals with epilepsy, so she has seizures, but she's starting to like hear the voices in her head again that she heard when she was a kid and she first saw the lights. And the friggin' supporting characters are so insufferable. She like works with her boyfriend who is like a YouTuber talking about aliens and paranormal stuff, and he has like 30,000 subscribers or whatever. Okay, I'm gonna put these in the fridge now. These are like as disc shaped as I could get them. And he's kind of really whiny and annoying, but the two of them work together on making content about like if aliens are real or something. And she's also been always kind of obsessed with the Phoenix Lights. But then she has this fucking brother that is like this addict that she bailed out of jail or something, and she has to like watch him. So she takes her boyfriend and her brother with her to this job that she has to do for what turns out to be a cartel. And they are just the whiniest fucking bitches ever. I feel like it's just very archetypal, like, annoying men characters. The main thing of this movie is, one, it is so fucking slow. It's so slow. It's so slow. Like, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, like I said, is a slow burn, but at least it stays actually related to what the movie is about. It stays related to, like, he has this phenomena of he keeps seeing this mountain over and over again, and so he's gradually losing his mind, and he creates this giant model of the mountain and stuff like that. Like, at least it's kind of related, and then we kind of get a resolution. And I will admit, I only made it halfway through this movie, so I don't know how it ends. I don't know if it ever picks up, and I couldn't find like an actually in-depth plot summary or anything like that, so maybe it gets better. I don't know. I will say that it is very visually pretty. It does get like 50 minutes into the movie before we see anything about any kind of lights, anything with the Phoenix Lights, and she like follows them, but then they go behind a mountain, and then she just immediately gives up instead of like driving through the mountain, because once you get past the mountain, they're probably still going to be visible because they're in the sky. But she gives up, and then so we get like 2 minutes of that, and at that point my dad and I are like, we're really fucking bored. I'm so tired of this. But we get this whole subplot of they get to this house, and then there's this, like, I think this undocumented man and his daughter's really sick, and they rob a medical supply store to get the daughter hydrated, and the brother, like, puts in the IV because was just, like, detoxing, or no, he's, like, an intravenous drug user, so he knows how to put in an IV, or something like that. It was just really fucking slow and boring and unrelated, and all the characters are completely unlikable. The main girl is like pretty tolerable, but she doesn't really have a whole lot to her, and they just don't really actually cover the material that the plot seems to be covering. Like, I think around the time we stopped, the brother, I think, had like used meth or something, and he like ran out naked in the middle of the night, and so they have to like go find him, and he's in some shed or something, like in the fetal position, naked, and it was just a lot, and also not really that much at the same time. You can feel free to disagree with me. Also, if you happen to see Star People all the way through, let me know if it picks up at all, or if we get at all more content relating to actual like aliens or the Phoenix Lights, because it just seems like this profile on these people without adding any kind of dimension to their characters at all. This then brings us to right after we saw Star People and decided that it was terrible and we didn't want to watch it anymore. I just added this to the list because I forgot we watched this. We watched, I believe the title is The Greatest Beer Run of All Time, or The Greatest Beer Run Ever, or something like that, and it's Zac Efron. And he stars this dude in New York who a bunch of his friends have gone overseas to fight in Vietnam. And he was like a Marine merchant or something. I don't know if he was like a draft dodger or what, but he just ended up not going to Vietnam. And he ends up deciding to go to Vietnam to deliver beer to his friends that either are like MIA or that he just wants to say hi to. And then he ends up getting a much different perspective on what the war actually is, what it consists of, ends up kind of realizing a lot of the media narrative that's being pushed out is not true, because he's like witnessing a lot of it. He like makes friends with this Vietnamese guy that, spoiler alert, ends up getting shot in the New Year's Eve, I think, like Attack on Saigon or something like that. Really great movie. Really great movie. I love that it actually got right to the fucking point of what the plot is, like within 15 minutes. It's great. It keeps you engaged. It actually has like a deeper meaning to it. It makes you think. And it's funny because I didn't see that critics gave it that great reviews. I don't think critics really liked that movie very much. I really liked it, but it seemed like critics fucking love Star People. So if you need any more proof that critical reception does not always indicate whether or not you're going to like a movie or whether, you know, audiences are going to like a movie, then there you go. But I mean, I could give 15 examples of movies that were like critically panned, but I personally really like. I'm gonna continue with, this is a bit of a different one, but this is a documentary. I watched The Perfect Neighbor because that came out this year. All I'm gonna say, it's a very well done documentary, but goddamn, will it piss you off. It will piss you off because the main subject of it, Susan Lawrence, is a narcissist, professional victim, complete hypocrite. Yeah, it uses the body cam footage from different incidents between her and a neighbor that she ultimately ends up shooting, in which she tried to claim was self-defense, and she was basically left free for like 4 days before she was arrested, and the police were like, we need to investigate before you make an arrest, and then people rightfully called them out of like, if she wasn't a white woman, you would have had her in jail while you were doing said investigation, but you just had her walking around free. It actually, like, one police officer tried to like keep one neighbor from yelling at her afterward. It's like, she has the right to fucking yell at her, leave her the fuck alone. The way the police, like, so obviously were so annoyed by this woman, but also were like so weirdly protective of her after she killed someone is very upsetting. The way that she just makes exceptions for herself, you know, this interaction with this neighbor, one of them was, this neighbor like took Adjika Owens, took this private property sign and like kind of tossed it to the side, and Susan was saying she assaulted her, she threw it at me with such force. But then when Susan throws Adjika's son's roller skates and the sons claim that she threw them at them, she's like, oh no, it was in their direction. Turns out I have to chill the dough for like 3 hours. Apparently it's like mandatory, it has to be like at least 3 hours, and so that's what these guys are. So that's whack.
Oh, it's so tiny.
Super, super tiny for a locket.
Dead friend. Whose mother I am making cookies for in this video.
Yeah, well, while you were going up to look at the dress thing that Mom was telling you about, I was talking to the camera and I was like, we're making gingerbread cookies for my dead friend's mom. Gingerbread's her favorite, so that'll fix everything.
Hello and welcome back to my kitchen and the odyssey of making gingerbread cookies. So my dough has been chilling for about 22 hours now. So I'm taking my chilled discs out of the fridge. They are very cold. Gonna verify what exactly Sally wants me to do with these now. Okay, so it basically says that you should only roll out and shape one disc of dough at a time. So I'm gonna do that. Wash my hands to make sure they're clean. Also, look at my nails. I did my nails last night. That's probably one of my favorite things about having a retail job and not being in food service anymore, is I can paint my nails. I don't think I've ever painted my nails more consistently in my life than the past couple of months. So yeah, basically to wrap up with The Perfect Neighbor Netflix documentary, is Susan Lawrence is a hypocrite and a racist. She is a professional victim. When Adjika, like, apparently tossed a sign to the side, she was clearly aiming at her and threw it with such force and she assaulted her. But when I'm pretty sure witnesses say that they saw her throw roller skates at Adjika's sons, then it was, oh no, I just threw them in their direction and they were just, you know, it wasn't meant like that. So, but Adjika pounds on her door because she's mad at her and she was saying she's gonna kill me and she was threatening my life, which no one else could corroborate. But just like, she was just, I was panicked, I was in fear, and everyone was after her. Everyone's after her all the time. So it is very well done, and I do appreciate that they made a documentary about it because I had never heard of this case and this situation, and I do think it's an important story for people to know, but basically watch at your own risk because it is aggravating. It is very upsetting, especially like the part where her kids learn that she passed away. and their dad has to inform them. It is so beyond heartbreaking. But yeah, that was like maybe the only documentary that I watched this year, but it was my favorite, even though it was like the only one. So another movie that I added to the list retroactively because I obviously know I watched it this year, but I wasn't thinking about it when it came to writing this list. Probably my favorite movie of the year, K-pop Demon Hunters. It really took over my life for a minute there. The soundtrack, just everything, but also I became really consumed with noticing all the little quirks about it, and I made a full-on video about it, I think like a month ago, 6 weeks ago, and yeah, noticed a lot of things about it, but yeah, the music's amazing. I really love the commentary of it. I do think it's quirky, goofy genius, like I said. There are quite a few little like quirks about it. Oh, one more thing I will say about The Perfect Neighbor. I thought it was an interesting choice that they basically only showed trial footage in the end credits, and I feel like they could have probably expanded and like covered more of the trial, because apparently just a lot went down in the trial. So I thought that was an interesting decision. But yeah, getting back to K-pop Demon Hunters, I watched this movie so many times. And I loved it so much. And I'm also like definitely going to be forgetting other movies that I watched this year. Dude, rolling out this dough is challenging. This consistency is so strange. It said it was easier if you kind of like flatten it in, kind of like make it into little scraps and then roll it, and or try to like meld them back together and then roll it. But I don't even know if it'll let me do that. But we're just gonna see. And this is only one disc. I don't know how long we're gonna be here. Okay. So the next one I can jump to is kind of a big time jump, but right around the Christmas season, I think like Christmas Eve or something, my family and I ended up watching The Giver, and that was my first time watching The Giver in probably over a decade. I'd only ever seen it once, but as we will talk about in a minute, I actually read the book this year. I had owned the book for a while and finally decided to read it. I'm trying to meld this together with my fingers. But yeah, I enjoyed watching the movie The Giver. Having read the book, I feel like there were actually certain details that were kind of more disturbing that they chose to omit. Like in the book, they basically make like a joking reference to physically beating Asher as a child because he had a speech impediment, and describe it as if it's like a shortcoming of his. And then I remember instead of Asher getting assigned as a pilot, they assigned him to be like the assistant recreation director or something, or like a physical education teacher or something like that, like helping kids be active and have fun, pretty much. I don't actually remember in the book, I don't remember that whole thing of like Asher picking up Jonas with the plane and dropping him in the river. I don't think that's in the book. I believe they had that as a movie thing. I could be wrong, but I don't remember that being in the book. But yeah, and then we realized at the end that it's kind of like a vaguely themed or like a thinly veiled Christmas movie. It's not officially a Christmas movie, but it does have some kind of light theming of Christmas, because a big device is the sled, and in one of the final scenes, Jonas and Gabe are approaching a house where people are singing on the inside and there are lights and stuff. And my mom was kind of confused on how the premise of this worked. If like there was the ruin where apparently like society completely crumbled, but obviously like society remained on the outside, but they were just like only really aware of their own society, and they seemed not aware that anyone else was still alive or functioning, which kind of makes sense, because if you see how far Jonas has to travel and like all the different kinds of terrain that he has to go through, it is extremely vast, and so it makes sense that they would just kind of assume that there's no one else around them, even though they have atlases and stuff, and that's like the main thing that they're allowed to read. I don't know. The lore of the book and the movie and everything is interesting. Now, speaking of questions about the lore and backstory of a movie, we have the last movie that I watched in the year 2025. I watched this on New Year's Eve with my dad, December 30th, and it was Those Who Wish Me Dead, starring Angelina Jolie. I'm kind of tempted to spray a tiny bit of avocado oil on this dough because it's so crackly and I'm probably going to regret it. But it's not melding at all. So I'm going to see how much I end up regretting that. I just sprayed a tiny bit of avocado oil spray. Alright, so Those Who Wish Me Dead stars Angelina Jolie, and also Nicholas Hoult is in a supporting role, and I don't really know the name of anyone else in the cast. Like, the dude that plays Shane in The Walking Dead is in it, / also The Punisher. I've seen the first episode of The Punisher. It seems like a good show, but it was just a lot for me. And then I kind of don't know where anything anyone else has been in or anything like that. But very entertaining movie, and I very much enjoyed it. However, I have notes because I feel like it's just very vaguely written. I don't even think it's badly written. It's just very vaguely written. There's just so much that ends up never being explained. This forensic accountant sees that his boss has died in a gas explosion and immediately suspects that it was a mob hit, basically, and takes his son on the run. They start out in Florida and they end up in Montana, and he just talks about I knew too much. I put these numbers together because I was trying to find the truth, and I found out the truth of this situation, and now they're after me, and they went after my boss, and now I think they're going to come after me too. We never find out what the situation was. We never find out what this truth was that he uncovered in the numbers. We never find out really what this organization even is, what kind of crime they deal with or anything like that. None of the backstory. And then we end up not even finding out what actually happens to the kid. It's just we don't know, but we'll figure it out together. So I enjoyed it. It is entertaining. However, it's just a very thin plot. The plot just doesn't have a lot of dimension to it. I really liked the scene where the sheriff's wife saved him. That was really cool. Obviously there are going to be spoilers in everything that I'm talking about. Didn't love the fact that Owen is his name. Owen ends up dying. Glad he ends up with his wife though when he does pass away. Probably going to end up with flour on my face. This is very tedious. This is super tedious. All right, so that's pretty much it for movies that I watched this year. Hello, this is another little add-in because I remembered another movie that I watched this year. I just filmed a little mini sobriety update that might be up before this video is. But I remembered today when I was at work that this year I also watched Wake Up Dead Man from the Knives Out trilogy, the Knives Out series, which I have seen the first Knives Out and I've seen this one. I actually have not seen Glass Onion, and I kind of really think I should watch it because I really enjoyed both of the movies, the first and the third that I've seen. I really enjoyed the third one. I really enjoyed Wake Up Dead Man. I feel like I'm spoiling everything else I'm talking about in this video, but I really don't want to spoil this movie because the plot is really convoluted and I feel like the twists are really good. It's very zany and kind of nonsensical, but it does kind of make sense. I feel like the reveal was kind of they do the reveal and then they kind of backtrack and then make everything that you've learned so far make sense in the context of this random reveal that they do. But I was rooting for the main character. I really liked him. I feel like we are left with reasons to still like him, which I appreciate. I was rather engaged. I was engaged. And it kind of makes me want to watch the first Knives Out again. I keep touching my hair. I'm petting my hair so much. But I also really like looking at my nails. They're just so pink. So yeah, Wake Up Dead Man, the Knives Out film. I very much enjoyed it. I don't want to give too much away in it, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, and I'm not a filmmaker or anything, so I'm I really liked it, and that was that. But the person that I suspected pretty much the entire time, I ended up being right, but not in the way that I thought I would be. I might end up... Okay, so if you don't want to get spoiled on Wake Up Dead Man, I'm going to put the timestamp on the screen. So I forget the name of the dude, the doctor guy. The doctor guy that the guy who plays Hawkeye plays, he ends up killing this priest, and he ends up being like the whodunit after this other younger priest is initially thought of as having killed him. But the secretary, Martha lady, I suspected her from the beginning. She was so fucking weird, and she was such a yes person that I thought that, like, to the priest, the older priest, that I thought she had something going. I was like, it's always the devoted ones that end up secretly hating the person, so I wouldn't have been surprised if she did it, but she ended up knowing what went down to a certain extent, but she ended up not being guilty in the way that I thought she was, because a lot of it's hard for me to even recall, even when spoiling it, because like they like put the dead priest in a tomb, but they actually have another guy pretending to be him, and so they put him in the tomb instead, and I forget that she takes his body is like somewhere else, like put in this vat of acid, and she like anticipates that this doctor guy is going to try to poison her, so she switches the drinks. Like, the plot is so convoluted. I cannot state that enough. Like, it's so nonsensical and insane, but it's very entertaining and very enjoyable. So Wake Up Dead Man is a very good movie. Maybe one of my favorite watches of the year. Possibly. It's definitely up there. Now let's go through shows really quickly. And if I end up remembering anything that I watched, I will probably film separate footage and put it in. I'm also currently uploading my part 2 James Charles video because, like, your girl is on it with the content right now, okay? We are filming as we are uploading something else. Like, I'm fucking with it, okay? This is my year. This is our year! With that being said, let's fucking talk about Stranger Things, shall we? I took, like, way too long to get into Stranger Things. My whole family was into it and kept telling me that I needed to watch it, and I knew that I was going to enjoy it, but I've always had a thing where it just takes me way too long to watch things that people tell me that I should watch. Where is a cookie tray? Where's a baking tray? Oh, there it is. Good Lord. The way that the baking trays are set in that cabinet is ridiculous. But with that being said, I'm going to start the slow process, probably slow process of shaping the cookies. We're going to do a few and see how it goes. So yeah, it took me a minute to actually watch Stranger Things. I believe I actually watched all of it this year. I think I started it in, this year. I started all of it in... I believe I started it in 2024. I honestly, like, when you are drinking and smoking all the time, it's just hard to keep track of when you did things. I literally thought that I had decorated my Christmas tree last year a certain way, but realized that that was actually how I decorated it the year before. Like, the years just kind of blur together, which is why I'm happy I live my life differently now. You know, we gotta circle back to sobriety in every video, okay? It's like, it's our brand now. I am not 100% sure when I actually started watching it, but I watched a good chunk of it this year, and then this year is obviously when they had the series finale. I'm gonna use like a pie server thing to lift the dough from this surface to the baking tray so it doesn't fall apart, hopefully. But I have seen season 1 pretty much twice. I rewatched a good chunk of season 1 with my family in October. But other than that, I have just seen everything once. And then we watched season 5 with obviously the series finale. So this is gonna have major spoilers. If you haven't seen season 5 yet, I will probably put a timestamp, or I'll probably just put like, you know, chapters like I always do. They say they should be like 1 inch apart from each other. Okay. I go all silent because I'm like trying to transfer these. They are just having a little like vent session.
What's that?
The dogs are just like going off.
Oh, they do that every afternoon. I wish the owners would pay attention to their friggin' animals because it just annoys me.
It's not those dogs, is it? It's the other
No,
neighbors.
it's the ones back behind me.
Yeah.
But every single day, especially when it's cold like it is now.
Babies.
Yeah, they just sit out there
Stop
and
sucking. Be better.
whine for hours.
Because they're cold. Because their parents fucking suck.
Exactly.
I'm interested to see if gingerbread even tastes good. I'm using.
I think you'll like it.
Okay, cool. I'm using a recipe from my favorite baking blog. So, if any recipe is going to be good, I imagine it's this one. If you were hearing any dog barking earlier, it's because our neighbors, like, to the back left of us fucking suck as pet parents, and they leave their dogs out, and even though their dogs freaking whine and stuff, and it makes me sad. I don't know what to do about that. But anyway, where was I? I kind of have, like, a lot of the opinions that everyone else had. My sister and I freaking screamed when Max came back, when we saw her again, and then when she came back, but we were so aggravated at how long it took her to walk the entire time, especially the second time where she was with Holly. When she and Holly are having their whole like game plan strategizing thing, we're like, walk and talk. It stressed me the fuck out. And then when Will came out, the way he just kept like the giant run-on sentence, and we like this, and we like this. And it's like, I can tell it seemed like the writers intended for it to be obvious that he was stalling and for it to kind of stress out the viewer. We were like, get to the point. Some of my family thought that him coming out didn't really make a lot of sense and they didn't get the purpose of it. I feel like it was kind of a loose end, and it was cool to wrap it up, and I thought it was a cool moment. It was funny to me that Murray was there. I saw some people say that they kind of thought that it should have been a smaller crowd that he came out to. I was kind of okay with the crowd that was there. I mean, obviously, like, Vicky was very new to the group, but I feel like they've all been through a lot together. I loved Robin smiling like a proud parent. And then when it comes to the ending and the speculation around the ending, I personally choose to believe the idea that Elle is living off happily somewhere with a bunch of waterfalls. Because, one, I feel like Callie helping her pull off the Great Escape kind of makes her character a lot more useful, and I feel like it would explain them randomly bringing her back. And I feel like it makes sense because the suppression stone, basically, like that satellite radio noise or whatever that was, it was going as Elle was standing at the gate. And granted, the Upside Down was like falling apart behind her, so there would be a lot of noise and explosions and stuff like that. But she didn't react at all to the sound, and it seems like that sound is really like her kryptonite, so I feel like it would have cut through like everything going on. And also the glitching of the hand thing also makes sense. But even just for the reason of they didn't react to the noise, and I guess like in theory Callie would have been nearby, and so she would have reacted to it too, but also like there was a lot of noise, so maybe they wouldn't have heard her scream or either of them like react to it. But I choose to believe that Elle is living happily. I saw some people that were kind of upset with the fact that Will's character, like when he's moving on and stuff, they just show him in a gay bar. And I personally, like, I feel like that's kind of a stretch. I'm okay with them showing him being happy in his identity and seeming to connect with people. And also, they made freaking Max and Lucas's conclusion that they just continue dating and they make it all about their love and their relationship continues to grow. And I don't think there's a problem with that. And I don't know, they're teenagers, so like love and relationships and shit matter. So, and maybe some people will be like, it's different because it's a queer character and so there's different significance. And like, sure, you can have your opinion about that. I don't know. I identify as pansexual and I just wasn't really thinking about it that hard, but agree to disagree. This reindeer just lost his ear. I need to reattach his ear. The cookie cutters I'm working with, by the way, are a candy cane, a little candy, so candy cane, little candy, wrapped candy situation, stocking, reindeer, house, mitten. We have tiny gingerbread men, but I honestly don't know where they went, so we're not actually using that, surprisingly. But I did see a lot of people have issues with the ending, like just different aspects of the ending, but I love that I did not see a single person complain about Dustin's valedictorian speech. I'm sure that the complaints are out there. I'm sure there are people that probably didn't like it, but I would just like to believe that we can all agree that that scene was fucking badass. I loved every part of it. I loved the song choice of The Trooper by Iron Maiden when that shit cuts in. It's so good. And I'm just being like, screw the system. This is our year. It's just, oh my God. It's so good. And I was like nervous at first when the scene started because I was like, oh, they're going to laugh at him or he's going to whatever. But he just fucking owned it. And it was such a good way to show the evolution of his character. The friggin' scene on the roof with like Robin, Nancy, Jonathan, and Steve, and they're like, we're gonna meet up every month. My sister and I are like, no, you're not. But my dad was like, it's okay though, because then they can like adjust from there, and then maybe they'll be like every 3 months or whatever. They'll adjust as needed, but it's good to start with a goal like that. We had like a whole moment about them setting this goal to meet every month. Okay, so I feel like these cookies are not gonna puff up that much, so I feel like I can set them kind of close to each other and it won't be an issue, hopefully. Let's see. So we're gonna actually end up with a lot of cookies, which is good because I was worried at first that we wouldn't have enough for ourselves after making the ones for her, but like she's gonna have a lot and it looks like we're gonna have quite a bit too, so yay. Also, Millie Bobby Brown, like the way she kept posturing her lips in her mouth, I believe she's had filler since then, and it seemed like she was trying to compensate for it, but it seemed to make it more obvious in my opinion, but like, you know, it's fine. She kind of has a bit of like an iPhone face situation going on now. But overall, it was just kind of funny to see everyone like pretend to be the same age. But also they were graduating from high school and I'm like, these bitches are seniors in high school. Like I lost all track of when the time was. I really should rewatch like the entire show. It's one of those shows that like the gaps between the seasons are so long that you have to like rewatch everything to remember what the fuck was going on. After the finale, I rewatched the first 3 episodes over the next day. But I was like, they're seniors in high school? It's so funny because everyone jokes about how like they don't look like the ages they're supposed to be portraying anymore, but then they graduate and I was like, I don't feel like they look like seniors in high school. So that was a funny moment. Hi, just popping in to add something that I realized I forgot to mention. And one of the reasons why I was kind of annoyed with the writing, and my family was, and I think a lot of people were, is I had like soot or something on my face, is the writing was kind of dumbed down in a lot of areas. The main one being, it took so fucking long for Mike and Nancy to realize that Holly had been abducted by Vecna. It was ridiculous. The second that she starts talking about an imaginary friend, you'd think that they would have caught on. And yes, they were like, Mike was like, oh, monsters aren't real, Holly. And at first I was like, okay, maybe he's placating her because he doesn't want to freak her out. But in his head, he like alarm bells are going and he's realizing this could be weird. No. Especially when he's all like, she's saying he's gonna save her from the monsters of this world and all this stuff, and he's just like, oh, monsters aren't real, Holly. And then he consoles her and tells her she's Holly the heroic, and that's all cute. But it literally takes their mom spelling out the fact that her imaginary friend was named Henry for them to realize, oh, Vecna abducted Holly. Like, no fucking shit. You think that you would have at least had a little bit of an inkling that something could have been off when she was talking about her imaginary friend saying he's going to save her from the monsters of this world, and she's like 9 years old, and insane. And then you'd think once she got freaking abducted that they would have been like, oh, this is definitely It literally had to be spelled out for them. It was brain dead. But yeah, I don't have a ton of super substantive commentary on Stranger Things, besides I really should refresh my memory on pretty much all of it, especially since I'm pretty sure I watched almost all of it while under the influence of something. Okay, what other shows did I watch this year? Did I don't think I noted shows. Damn it. Hold on. Okay, I didn't put the shows in my script, so I'm gonna have to look in my notes app. The one that I can remember that I did watch, besides obviously Stranger Things, is a docuseries actually. I watched Amy Bradley is Missing, which I don't know if I've really talked about it before, but I am quite a true crime person. I do have quite an interest in true crime. I don't consume it anymore as much as I once did at one point, because it's not always the best thing for my mental health. But on kind of a whim, I started this show, Amy Bradley is Missing, which is a 3-part docuseries about a case that I've been familiar with for a long time, the disappearance of Amy Bradley, which took place in 1998. But I actually did come out learning some more stuff about it. So it is rather informative, and I would recommend if you're interested in true crime or if you are interested in that case at all. I will say the freaking cruise director, or whatever the hell his name is, pissed me the fuck off. He really was like, and he pissed a lot of people off. He had the audacity to be like, we can't delay a trip for 2,000 guests because one girl's missing, and I know that sounds cold. Be like, yeah, it is cold. That's freaking crazy, especially considering, according to them, a bomb search only took 45 minutes, but they refused to delay anything by 45 freaking minutes to find where this woman was on the ship, which, if they had done that, they most likely could have found her that day. I feel like it's really well done. But it will probably more than likely make you extremely angry. And then the same dude that's like, I know that sounds cold, will then get offended that people think the cruise company was heartless or that they don't care about people. It's like, you literally just said that you prioritize the experience of your guests over ensuring the safety of one of your guests. But okay. And then they have the audacity to be offended that people find that callous. And then he has the fucking audacity to say that the parents are in denial about the truth, and he's saying my personal theory is that she fell overboard, even though he's talking about being in denial of the truth, when the fucking Curacao Coast Guard and the Curacao Chief of Police literally was like, I assure you, I promise you, if she had fallen overboard, we would have found her. Literally the Chief of Police saying, we searched everything. We had air search, water search, we search the beaches, we search everything. With the way the current was, the distance from the shore that the boat was at, if she fell overboard, we would have found her by now. We would have found something. We would have found a body part, a piece of clothing, something. We would have found something. And the level of conviction with which he says that, like, they would have found something if she fell overboard. I do not believe she fell overboard, my personal theory. But he has the audacity to be like, they're in denial of the truth. And as opposed to my personal theory that apparently he views as the truth because he's so qualified being the director of the fucking Royal Caribbean cruise. Like, get the fuck out of here with that. Oh my God, it's so aggravating. If you can mentally prepare yourself for that fucking idiot. And also the fact that you literally had like 6 different people over the course of years claim to have had interactions with her. And granted, a lot of these people are also going to piss you the fuck off because they will describe interacting with a woman like claiming to be held against her will, or they believe she's being held against her will, and then they don't fucking do anything about it. They're like, I just didn't know what to do. It's like, call the fucking police. Call the police. You interact with a woman in Barbados who says she's from Virginia, and you have reason to believe that she's being held against her will, and she's fucking blindfolded in a bathroom being talked to about a deal, and you better be ready to go. This deal's at 11 p.m. and you're not going to mess this up for me. Like, you needed to see it on America's Most Wanted to start to suspect that she was a victim of sex trafficking. Like, what? And there were other, like, interactions, like the Canadian dude on the beach. I honestly, like, I kind of will give him a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt because the stuff that he witnessed was, like, a lot more innocuous. It was just, like, her walking on the beach with some dudes, and it kind of seemed like they didn't want her to talk to him. They kind of, like, gestured her into a cafe, and so then he just kind of, like, observed them for a bit. Nothing, like, major happened, but, like, the number of people that are like, oh yeah, she told me she was being held against her will, and then I decided not to talk about it for 2 years because I didn't know what to do, or I didn't want to get in trouble. And just, yeah, it will make you mad. It will make you mad. But at the same time, it is very informative. And I feel like I've consumed quite a bit of media about her disappearance, and I came away having learned some stuff that I didn't know before. So it could be worth the watch if you are aware that it is likely going to upset you. The fact that her freaking parents keep her car in pristine condition, like, in case she, or like ready for when she comes back, and they say like when she comes back, and the level of hope that they are somehow able to hold on to, like, it is so beautiful and so heartbreaking at the same time, and I just wish the absolute best for them. And I honestly there are some people that had a problem with the fact that they completely excluded the storyline about Frank Jones, who is the piece of shit con man that stole like 2 years of search time from them with the promise of rescuing Amy, but literally had this long con, got this double look-alike and posed her on the beach to feed them photos of this is Amy on the beach, and like evil, just evil. I'm kind of glad they excluded him because he's not worth our time. He's garbage. He's a loser. And yes, I guess that's a storyline that's relevant to the story, but like, no. Like, I'm not crying over the fact that Frank Jones was excluded. We don't need to acknowledge his existence. And there are only 2 series left that I can think of that I watched in 2025. Probably my favorite show that I'm so glad I discovered in 2025 is Frieren Beyond Journey's End. Bruh, apparently season 2 is coming out, I think, at the end of the month. I'm not sure. It's coming out soon, though, and I'm so freaking excited about it. I love that show. I am so glad that I was recommended it by a dude that I was talking to at the time that we don't talk anymore. There's no, like, bad blood or anything. We just, like, grew apart. I, like, binged, like, the first 10 episodes of the show in the first day. And it is so calming, and there are like bits of action here and there, but it's definitely a slow burn. But I feel like the writing and the character development and also the visuals and just everything make it so enjoyable. It was, I got into this thing where I would watch like a few episodes before I went to bed every night for like a week, and that was really nice. So if you have not checked out Frieren Beyond Journey's End, I would highly recommend. Dude, I will just never run out of dough. I might end up freezing the other half of this dough because I am getting so many cookies out of this dough. And then the other series that I did find in 2025 and did largely enjoy was You Can't Ask That, which I believe is a Netflix original. But it's an Australian series where they just do like Q&As with people of various demographics and groups, and yeah, just social groups or just various dispositions in life, and ask kind of controversial, taboo questions that it is traditionally thought of that you can't ask people. And I have not seen all the episodes by any means, but I've seen a good handful, and I really enjoy it. My personal favorite, and kind of the only one that I really go back to, is the Alcoholics episode. I really enjoy the Alcoholics episode. I find quite a bit of solace in it. But yeah, I've seen like the sex workers episode, Muslims, I think I've seen little people, abuse survivors, ice users, probably more. I think like overweight people or like body positive people, something like that. That was one that I watched. I personally, I just don't get why people give a fuck what people choose to do with their body, or if people choose to accept themselves at whatever size. I just don't like when said body positive person or overweight person, I just don't like it when people spread misinformation about what health is. And obviously health looks a lot of different ways. I haven't seen that episode in a while, but I just remember being like, oh, we don't need to make claims about health, or I don't know. I was getting some misinformation vibes at times, but I haven't seen that episode in a minute, so I can't point to anything specific, but I do really like that show. Hi, I'm jumping in for hopefully the last time to interject because I remembered a show that I definitely did not start watching in 2025, but I finished it in 2025, and I was watching it for the first time. Avatar: The Last Airbender. It has been a hot minute since I saw that show, and I was largely stoned when I was watching it, so I kind of forgot, but I definitely finished it in 2025 in January. If you watched my What I Got for Christmas video last year, I talked about it because I got an Appa plushie, which I had actually asked for, and I mentioned that I was in the process of watching it, and I was almost done with it, and I really, really loved it. And was told that the finale was going to be really good, and it totally was. I really need to rewatch it, actually. I need to rewatch that show sober to where I'll actually probably remember a lot of the intricacies of the plot. But what I can tell you, Katara was really fucking annoying. I really did not like her. Toph was awesome. Aang was cool. He was just kind of there. My favorites were Appa and Iroh. Those were my favorites. I really loved Zuko, too. I like an ambiguous antagonist. I really do. I like a layered antagonist where you don't know where they're going to go, and they go to the dark side for a minute, but then they come back. That's my shit. I love that. I pretty much liked all the characters, but I just really did not like Katara. I did not like Katara. I was texting someone about her a few months ago and was mentioning that scene where she was just being petty, and she's like, oh, look at those stars, Toph. Oh, wait, you can't. And I literally texted someone. I was like, choke on concrete and get fucked, you cunt. She is just a cunt, and not in the sleigh way. And I know she's literally 13 years old, but everything is when my mother died in the war, and my mother died in the war. Wearing her fucking waterbender necklace when she is cosplaying as a firebender because she's a fucking idiot. I'm literally getting heated. I need to chill. But love the show. And if I get heated about it, it's because I care. And, great job at making a character that fires me the fuck up because she's a dumb bitch, even though she is a teenager, but that's kind of not an excuse. But also the whole, my girlfriend turned into the moon thing, that's rough, buddy. That was just funny. Love that show. Should rewatch it. Very glad I watched it. I didn't watch it until I was 25. It was kind of crazy, but yeah. So those are all the shows, and now we're going to wrap up with the books that I read in 2025. So I wanted to make an effort to read more than I typically do, and I think I ended up succeeding. I didn't end up finishing all the books that I wanted to. I had this goal of reading one book for every month, and I ended up getting halfway there. I completed 6 books this year, which is more than I would typically complete in a year. I do watch some booktubers, and it's always I read 54 books this year, or they read a book a week for the entire year, and that's amazing. But I wanted to be realistic and be kind to myself. So we started with, let's see if I can read 12 books this year, and we ended on 6, and I'm honestly happy with that. So the first book that I read this year was actually a reread. So I reread a book that I had previously loved and thought was amazing. And I still do, but I do look at it slightly differently, and we'll talk about it. It is The Deep by River Solomon. I first read this book in, I think, early 2021 for a class that was called Slave Narratives. And I was like blown away when I first read it, just because the concept is gorgeous. The concept is incredible. It's so poetic, and a lot of the moments of the book are really poetic. Just conceptually, it's stunning. The themes are brilliant. The concept is brilliant. It's I can't stress it enough. So for those of you that don't know, The Deep is basically about this species of like aquatic fish people. They're basically mermaids, but they're called Wajinru, I believe, Wajinru. It's a species that developed from the bodies of the slaves that were thrown overboard during the transatlantic slave trade. The species developed from the fetuses that were born of those bodies, and they have this thing about like they were already breathing water, so they naturally could breathe water once they left their body. It's really cool. Then, like centuries later, it's pretty much like The Giver. It has a very similar premise to The Giver in the sense of there's a historian who holds on to all of the memories of the entire species, including those who they originated from, and all the pain, all the suffering of that they went through to get to where they are. They're the only one that holds on to it. I think Yetu is the current historian. Okay. I have put all my cookies on the tray. I still have an entire disc of dough to work with, plus this little ball, but I have filled 2 trays with cookies, and I'm preheating the oven right now. I don't know if I want to call that good for now. You know what? Let's see. How many other trays do I have? Oh, I have a whole other giant tray to work with. Okay, we're good. We're just gonna be making like 75 billion gingerbread cookies. At first, I was gonna double the recipe. I'm so glad I didn't do that now. There's so many. We're gonna have so many. I better like these. But either way, hopefully she does. Anyway, so Yetu, like I think centuries later, Yetu is the current historian, and she basically goes into like dissociative episodes where she completely embodies the spirit of past people, and she like takes on all of their trauma and puts herself in really dangerous situations sometimes, and no one can really relate to her, and she constantly has this feeling of weight. And so basically the annual remembering happens where she passes all of the memories to the rest of her tribe, I guess, but it only happens once a year, and she has to guide them through the process, and then they give it back to her at the end of like a week or something. And it's basically how they stay like vaguely aware of their history, but not enough to like overwhelm them too much, because she's the one that constantly is overwhelmed. And she pretty much snaps, ends up running away during the remembering and kind of leaving them all, and ends up getting like washed ashore in this like little tide pool, and ends up connecting with a human, and they end up kind of forming like a bit of a romantic relationship because they're both like transplants. Then basically the rest of the Wajinru are going through it because they don't know how to deal with anything that's going on, and so they end up causing a major tropical storm, and Yetu has to like go back to try to save them, and then they have like empathy for her finally, and I kind of forget the specifics of how it ends, but overall it's an incredible story, and I was blown away the first time I read it. I'm gonna be so for real, I still really enjoyed it the second time I read it. However, I just became so much more aware of how repetitive the writing is. The writing is really repetitive at times. Again, conceptually, brilliant. Thematically, brilliant. There's just a lot of repetition of like, she holds the weight of the history, and the weight of the history, I feel like is said so many times, like probably at least a dozen times, if it's not actually said that many times. Like, it feels like it is, and we're just constantly reminded that she holds the weight of the history, and she has the burden of the history. The word history, I don't even want to know how many times it is said in that book. And it's a short book too. It's like maybe 200 pages. I have a copy of it. Hold on. So this is the book, and I kind of low-key wish that it came with the like alternate cover that I think is on the Google Play Books version of it, because I originally read this book digitally for class. It's 166 pages. It's a super brief book, and I feel like history is said just a billion times. But I originally read the book digitally for my class, but then for Christmas last year, for my work Secret Santa, I actually put on my list that I would love a hard copy of that book because I love that book. And then the coworker that got me that book. And they actually got me like everything on my list. It was so nice. I don't talk to that coworker, but I appreciated the gesture. I like asked if I could hug him, and he was all like, okay. It was all like weirded out. And I was like, all right. I mean, but that was my first book that I read in 2025. So kind of not as enjoyable of an experience just because I became more aware of how repetitive the language is, but still very enjoyable nonetheless. And I would still recommend it. The next book I read was Garden Spells. I forget the name of the author, but I will put the cover up on the screen now. It's like Amy something. Also very enjoyable, but pretty much this book, similar to how like The Deep is very similar to The Giver, Garden Spells is very, very similar to Practical Magic. I have not read the book Practical Magic, but I've seen the movie. A lot of the general like details are present. It's like this magical family that's like seen as weird, and the younger sister like goes off and lives on her own for a long time and then comes back to the family home. And then the older sister is like kind of a recluse. I kind of forget if they also have like weird aunts that taught them everything they know the way they did in Practical Magic. But also the older sister like pretty much swears off love. She like just doesn't want anything to do with love. And so a lot of similarities. I don't think they end up reanimating the dead body of an abusive partner. I don't think they have that detail in Garden Spells. I could be wrong. It's been like a year since I read it. I honestly could stand to reread that book because I did really enjoy it. This dude moves in next door, and he's like very obviously attracted to her, and she is like rebuffing him at every opportunity. She's like giving him different like supplements and tonics and stuff to make him fall out of love with her, and like none of them work, and they ultimately like end up getting together. And I also kind of forget how it ends. I think it ends with her like finally letting herself learn to be happy. I don't even know. So that was enjoyable, brain candy, romantic goodness. Let me get that piece of saran wrap out of the dough. So the next book that I read, oh, you know what? I think Garden Spells was the third book that I read. I believe the second book I read was The Marrow Thieves by Cheryl Dimeline, however you say that. That's a book I'd had physically for a while and had been intrigued by, but I finally read it. And it is a relatively short book as well. A very interesting premise also is basically like a sort of like a dystopian near future in Canada where natives are hunted and harvested for their bone marrow because they're the only ones that still have the ability to dream. Humanity's lost the ability to dream. So they harvest the bone marrow of natives to like create some kind of serum or something. Again, conceptually brilliant. And also like writing wise, I remember really enjoying it too. I feel like the writing is pretty fresh. It is a pretty heavy story though. And also it is one of those that like switches between characters. Everything kind of goes back to the main character, Mitch. He's like the through line, but it kind of switches between perspectives of different characters. And there is, I forget her name, but one of the characters experiences a gang rape, and it's a really brutal, disturbing scene, and there isn't any like content warning or anything for that. So if you are going to read that book, just be aware that at some point, if I end up finding the character's name or whatever, because I think all the chapters are labeled with the character name, her chapter contains like a kidnapping, and she's like held hostage for 3 days and gang raped repeatedly for like delivering messages and interfering with some like gang's turf or something. It's like so dumb. She was gang raped and it was dumb, but that is like, it's upsetting to read. But that is kind of the most brutal that it gets, thankfully. But I remember really enjoying it. So The Marrow Thieves, would recommend, did enjoy, could probably stand to reread as well, because I don't really remember a lot of how a lot of these books endings. So then it was Garden Spells, which was pretty welcome because it was a little fluffier and happier and less consequential. And then I kind of forget what order I read these next ones in. I think the next one I read was The Hobbit. I finally read The Hobbit. I did enjoy it, but it was one of those where like you're mainly just reading it so that you can know that you read it, and you can like, you're reading it to have read it. It was kind of hard to follow. The language is very dense to me. I did enjoy it and the high fantasy of it, and I did feel a little, swept away, especially because I was reading it while my dog was passing away / after she had passed away. And so that was offered some good escapism. But also, I had to like spark notes it at a certain point just to clarify what exactly was happening, because it was hard for me to follow what was even happening because the language is really dense. At least to me. Maybe you'll read it and be like, this isn't dense at all. And good for you. I then proceeded to try to read The Fellowship of the Ring, the first book in the Lord of the Rings series. And I got 100 pages away from the end, and I just stopped. And I may go back to it, but I also may never go back to it because, again, I was 100 pages from finishing it. I could barely tell you one thing that happened. So I believe after The Hobbit, the next book that I finished was The Giver by Lois Lowry. Loved that book. It is kind of disturbing at times, and there are details in the book that they did not adapt into the movie, as far as like how abusive this tribe is, or this cult. Essentially, it is a cult. There's a lot of cult themes and euphemisms and stuff like that. I feel like that was pretty intentional. So if you have any kind of history with cults, that might be super fucking triggering. So proceed with caution. This dough is so high maintenance, it's ridiculous. This is the most high maintenance cookie dough I have ever worked with in my life. This is an arm workout, and I've been up since just before 5 a.m. So I don't know if I can handle this right now, but yeah, enjoyed that. And then The Giver, and then the last book that I ended up finishing this year was Brave New World by, I don't know how to say his name, Aldo Huxley. And then there was like some kind of nonfiction essay at the end of Brave New World that I did not end up reading. I just read the novel part of it. And again, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. I could probably stand to reread it because I kind of forget most of what happened. I was probably high for a lot of the time that I was reading it. So that is... Those are the books that I read this year, and still not done rolling out this fucking dough. So I didn't realize like how much of these things I would not remember because of having used substances. Also, side note, treatment could have killed me, ? You know what I was talking about in my testimonial / sips and tips video of like, I went on this med and I had precipitated withdrawal when people didn't warn me about it. According to American Addiction Centers, because I finally looked it up, because I literally asked my counselor for clarification of like, so this is going to make it so that I can just stop and the withdrawal won't be as dangerous, right? And she was like, yeah, apparently it doesn't actually like subside withdrawal that much, I guess. Maybe this is wrong, hopefully, but it basically just like reduces cravings, but you can still definitely experience withdrawal even while taking it. So it seems like it's possible that may have not actually even been treating my withdrawal. So when I was throwing up at 4 a.m, I may have just been detoxing, but also it may have been a precipitated withdrawal thing too. It may have been both. But it seemed like my life was still very much in danger and I wasn't adequately informed of that. And I'm kind of really fucking pissed. I have an appointment with my recovery counselor tomorrow, and I'm thinking of exiting the program anyway because I feel like I'm kind of good. But I don't want to get in an argument with her, but I'm kind of like, what the fuck? So I might need some clarity on that. But obligatory sobriety mention. So that is the media that I consumed in 2025 and how I feel about it. This ended up being a pretty chaotic video while I also am like trying to make gingerbread cookies. And we're ending with having not put them in the oven yet, but I am going to have dozens of cookies, and I think it's pretty much decided that we are going to frost them. I'm going to get some frosting going as they're baking. I might end up like posting it on my Instagram story or something. So stay tuned for that. But thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing to my channel. I am posting a lot more consistently now, and I try to upload short form content every day, but I'm trying to also do long form like 2 to 3 times a week at least. Basically whenever I feel like it. I am starting to kind of knock out that big list of ideas that I have. And I like to think we have fun here. And I really enjoy making content, and I appreciate y'all for watching it. So also let me know if there's anything you want to see from me, or anything you want me to talk about, or any questions you have for me, anything like that. Yeah, I hope you have a lovely day, and I hope to see you next time.